So it is Thursday, October 14th at the time of filming this video, and there's a few brand new Nintendo Switch stories that I want to share with you guys today, starting with some great news around Metroid Dread, considering that we now have some Japan sales data that says that this is officially the biggest and best launch in Metroid series history, and I want to talk about what that means for the future of the franchise. Then we also have to dive through a big Bloomberg article that broke recently that suggests that while Nintendo Switch OLED sales are doing well, they may be around the corner from some serious supply constraint issues, and I want to share what that means if you're going to be on the hunt for this thing over the holiday season. Then the big talking point for today's video is Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack, as there is a lot of rumors and speculation floating around about what these prices may be, and I want to talk through that, where these rumors are coming from, if they're credible, and what we might actually expect to be the final pricing for this service. What's up, Nation? If it's your first time on the channel, make sure you join Sunbro Nation by subscribing below. Hit the like button on this video if you enjoy it today, and make sure you turn on your bell notification icon so you're kept up to date with all the newest gaming news. As I mentioned, guys, we're covering three different stories today, the first of which is going to be around Metroid Dread, and I can't stop talking about this game because, well, one, it's actually in the headlines every day, which is reassuring to see. Two, I absolutely believe it needs to be talked about every day, because if there's anybody out there that's on the fence of picking up this game, it needs to be talked about and put in the mainstream news outlets, because it's worth playing through and it's worth the price tag, and I will stand by that. And then the other reason is just because we are watching this closely as Metroid fans to see if this can truly be the most successful installment in the franchise, because that means great things for the potential future of more Metroid games, as right now we know to for sure expect Prime 4 at some point, but outside of that we don't know what Nintendo's planning with the series. And the better it sells with this Dread installment, the more projects Metroid will ultimately see worked on and released from Nintendo. So this is an exciting one for me to talk about. I want to quickly start off this conversation by hopping over to VGC, where they have some brand new sales data that has come out of Japan, and I want to stack rank where Metroid Dread has fallen versus all of the other installments in the franchise. So let's quickly hop over there to read through the article together. Dread has already outsold nearly every Metroid game in Japan. The Switch installment enjoyed a strong first week debut in Nintendo's home territory. Metroid Dread has enjoyed a strong first week in Japan and already outsold nearly every other installment in the region in its opening few days. That's according to the latest Japanese sales data collected by Famitsu, which shows that Dread sold some 86,000 copies during the first 3 days on sale, making it the best-selling game for the week ended October 10th. According to website Game Data Library, which collects Japanese sales data since 1995, Dread smashed the first week sales record for every installment released during this period. Data for the first 3 Metroid games is not included. The data also suggests that in just 3 days, Dread has already outsold the lifetime sales of nearly every Metroid game in Japan, excluding Fusion, which released in 2003, and Hunters in 2006, and the original Metroid data for Super Metroid and Metroid 3 isn't available. Because the Famitsu sales data only includes physical sales, Dread's first week sales will have been even higher when the digital is taken into account. So you can look at the numbers here on screen and see that Dread is over 86,000 total physical sales right now, and the only game in the franchise history in Japan that has actually sold more than that over the lifetime is Metroid Fusion at 155k sales, and Metroid Prime Hunters, which came in at just 90,000 total lifetime sales. So when you talk about Dread barely being in the first few days of its actual retail sales and it already accomplishing that, that is a very good looking figure to write home about. And then you also have to keep in mind the fact that this is totally excluding digital sales data, which is obviously a big medium for how people choose to play games and purchase games in 2021. So I do think that this is very reassuring to see. It does look like this is going to be, at least in my humble opinion, the best-selling Metroid game in the franchise so far. I think it absolutely deserves that with the incredible push that Nintendo has given it when it comes to the marketing. And then when you actually play through the game itself and see the quality of this title, it is no doubt that this should and would be the best-selling Metroid game so far. Now, the reassuring thing about seeing good numbers like this, especially out of Japan, where Metroid is actually not as big of an IP as it is even over here in the US region, is that it signals to Nintendo that this thing is something that fans want more of, and hence they will make more Metroid projects, maybe even future 2D Metroid installments, as I would love to see those live alongside these Prime games that we're expecting, most notably a potential for a Prime 1 remake as soon as next year, or a Prime Trilogy HD maybe next year. So whenever they start to talk about, Metroid Prime games again, and they start to talk about the ramp up to Prime 4, they're going to look to how many new Metroid fans have they created from Dread, and all of that stuff is going to be taken into account for future projects. So my advice to everybody is, if you haven't played through Dread, haven't given it a chance, go pick it up, go play at a friend's house, play on a demo, make sure it's a game for you. But if you like 2D action adventure platformers with some incredible mechanics and combats and fast-paced action and like heart racing moments happening almost non-stop in the game, and some really unique puzzles and exploration, this is going to be a game you will definitely not want to skip over. But I would love to hear from you guys in the comments down below what you think about these initial Metroid Dread sales numbers, and the big question, do you think it will be the best selling in the history of the franchise, which it does need to break over 3 million copies to do, and do you think that'll happen in the first year here of Metroid Dread's overall sales performance? And what do you think that we're going to see going forward from the Metroid franchise? And bonus question, do you think that we will see Prime 1 remake according to some of the recent leaks and rumors, or do you think that we may actually get something like Prime Trilogy HD instead? So do leave all your thoughts and opinions on this in the comments down below. Now, the next story I want to share with you guys is a big one around Switch OLED, and not just its initial sales, but also this Bloomberg article that outlines that while it is selling very well, there are already obvious supply constraints when it comes to the OLED model, and that could be worldwide, as we are starting to see some scalping prices go up on eBay, and I'm going to cover that with you guys again. But I kind of want to put this out there as a warning in case if you are someone who will be picking this up over the holiday season or trying to, and if you want to avoid these scalper prices that are already upwards of close to $500, was the average I was seeing online, it's something that you're going to want to pay attention to these next few restock waves, because it does sound like into early 2022 we could still have a very hard time finding a Switch OLED on store shelves. But to start off this conversation, I want to quickly hop over to Bloomberg, where they did do a good job saying what the Switch OLED model has sold so far in Japan, and then the big warning message about the supply issues. Nintendo Co.'s pricier new Switch console made a week debut at home in Japan, despite pre-orders selling out in a matter of minutes everywhere in the nation, a surprising result likely due to low-level supply stemming from the component shortages. The hybrid handheld's OLED edition released globally on Friday for $350 and sold 138,000 units in the domestic market over the launch weekend, sales tracker Famitsu said Thursday. That compares with the original Switch's inaugural weekend sales of 330,000 units in 2017 and the Switch Lite's 177,000 units in 2019. The instant popularity of the new Switch is causing a pair of inventory problems for the Kyoto-based Nintendo. On one hand, the company is finding it tough to produce enough Switch OLED units to satisfy demand, with Japanese retailers implementing lottery draws to determine who gets to buy one. That includes Nintendo's own flagship store in the trendy Shibuya district of Tokyo. The thin availability of the new device is set to extend at least until early next year, according to an official major Japanese retailer who asked not to be named because they're not authorized to speak publicly. Nintendo's production split between the upgraded new Switch, the long-established $300 original console, and the $200 handheld-only Switch Lite indicate that the company didn't anticipate the OLED edition outselling others by a large margin, according to an executive at an assembly partner. This conservative approach echoes investor concern at the time of the Switch OLED's announcement that didn't represent a sufficiently impressive upgrade. It's also leading to a potential headache of large inventory of unsold consoles. So to me, the standout point of the article is that Nintendo may have indeed made a big misstep here in terms of production when they split now 3 different console lines between the Switch Lite, the Switch base model, and then now the Switch OLED. It does seem like they took a relatively split down the middle approach when clearly the consumer demand is around the new OLED model, and even with that higher price tag, it is the one that people are going to retailers to try to secure. So we may have supply issues for the foreseeable future to kind of back up some of those supply issues that are initially happening even here in the US. There are some eBay listings that I want to quickly show you guys on screen where you can see various consoles being sold for $499 and higher, some above $500, some at the $480 price point. But regardless, there are plenty of listings already out there, and a lot of them being sold at these prices actually completed sales. So there's definitely people who are already not able to find Switch OLED models, and I would anticipate this to only ramp up as we get closer to the holiday season. So the big warning here and word to the wise is, if you want a Switch OLED model, try to get one as soon as possible before we go through probably what would be depleted stock of what is the first wave of this Switch OLED inventory that we are seeing right now. There was even a previous report that came out that somebody was saying, I believe it was a gaming journalist, and I can't remember who off the top of my head, but they did officially go on record saying if you want to Switch OLED, get the wave 1 stock, because past that we will see some drought and some real difficulty in finding the system on restock waves. So obviously it's going to be a hot item over the holiday season. I would love to hear from you guys in the comments down below if you've already gotten an OLED and if you're enjoying it, or if you're planning on picking one up between now and the holiday season, and if you think you will have a hard time finding it. Also let me know, because I've heard in the comments down below from some people that they see it in the stores right now with no real problem. So I would love to hear that perspective as well. So make sure you share your thoughts and opinions on all things Switch OLED in the comments down below. Now, the last big story I want to share with you guys today is actually one around Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack and the potential pricing of this already being leaked online. And while I don't tend to actually know that this is leaked or even agree with the fact that it's been leaked, I do think it creates an interesting discussion point around what do you guys feel like is a fair price. So I do want to start off by discussing a lot of the rumors and speculation that have been floating around online recently. And from what I can tell, this leak originally appeared on a Nintendo Academy channel, where I will have that video linked in the description down below in case you guys want to check it out straight from the source. But he is claiming that somebody has actually, an insider that he has contact with, has actually leaked these prices, and they sound pretty high. Now, this is again not confirmed by any means. We don't know that this will be the exact official pricing from Nintendo, but I do want to kind of cover these prices that have come out there, as it has a lot of people talking about whether or not Nintendo will overreach here and try to charge too much for this expansion pack and maybe turn away a lot of potential subscribers by doing so. So the leaks that are out there are suggesting the following pricing for Nintendo Switch Online. And as a point of reference, I want to first share the current pricing for all of the different tiers, so you guys are on the same page with what this would potentially go to if this is indeed accurate. So the following are the current pricing and the tiers for Nintendo Switch Online without an expansion pack, just the base Nintendo Switch Online service, which allows you, of course, to play online with friends, and you get access to the NES and SNES library of games, as well as the silly Nintendo Switch smartphone app that you can call your friends on, which I don't think maybe more than 5 people are out there actually using. But to go over the existing pricing as it stands today, for a 1-month membership, it is $3.99 US. For 3 months, it is $7.99, and for 12 months, it is $19.99. They then also have a family tier, which allows up to 8 total accounts to play on the online service features together, and that is priced at $39.99 for the year. The leak that's floating around online suggests that the new prices would go to a 1-month price of $9.99, which I want to dive into that because that sounds like ridiculously high to me. Then you have a 3-month price of $14.99, the 12-month pricing coming in at $39.99 for the whole year, and the family pricing being at $59.99. So are these prices accurate? We do not know at all, but I did want to just cover this story just for the simple fact that I wanted to get a poll from you guys really on what you feel like would be a fair price for Nintendo Switch Online, because obviously the N64 library coming to the console is the big selling point for this expansion pack. Sega Genesis games are great, but obviously there is that big collection pack out there that you can play over 50 total Sega Genesis title on one cartridge on Nintendo Switch. So a lot of those games you can already play. Granted, there are a lot of rumors saying that we will see far more than that added over the course of time into this library, so it's a nice thing. But to be honest, the biggest draw is definitely N64, especially when you see Nintendo propping it up with games like Ocarina of Time, Banjo and Kazooie, Mario 64, Mario Kart 64, and all of the other various titles that are in the launch window, in addition to them telling us that we have many more coming down the pipeline. So this is an interesting discussion point to me. Now, I feel like that $9.99 for 1-month pricing kind of seems absurd. I don't think that that's what they would price it at, because if you just look at, and one of the big red flags to this leak potentially maybe not being super accurate, is the fact that why would 1 month cost $9.99 and 3 months would only cost $14.99? I would challenge anybody to go buy the 1-month pass, because you're essentially getting ripped off. Like, I feel like something more in the middle of the road, like a $6.99 or $7.99 for a 1-month membership would be about as high as you would want to go, but you never know what Nintendo might be planning here, and it just seems like that structure isn't quite right to me. Now, what I do think could be accurate, and what I've kind of been thinking in my own head that Nintendo may launch this at for as far as an annual subscription service price, is $39.99, and that's my own personal prediction on where they'll land on the pricing. Whether or not it is that is all up for debate and speculation, but it's a price point that kind of makes sense to me. I've seen some people that say they don't want to see it go higher than $10 more for the annual subscription. I think that that's a little bit low, to be honest, with what they're adding here, but I do think that, you know, something in between that range of maybe $30 for a year or $40 for a full year is probably what we will see them push. And obviously they do want to discount the price down for multiple months and the year-long membership because they know they have you as a full-on subscriber. But that's another thing we have to quickly talk about, because that's not even confirmed from Nintendo themselves. Like, we could see them throw a curveball and shift away from monthly pricing and only sell it for the year, but I just don't see them doing that because it's not their traditional subscription service for most gaming online services. Like, when you look at the competition like Xbox Live and PlayStation Plus, that's just not how they typically do it. They always want to have you for the whole year if possible, so they entice you to do that by giving you that service at a lower cost. But I really want to hear from you guys at this point in the video, what you thought about all the different topics that we talked about today. What do you think this Nintendo pricing is actually going to come out at, and when do you think we'll actually get the official announcement from Nintendo? Because I'm predicting it's going to be between now and, you know, the release of Mario Party Superstars, because they're not going to want to conflate those two things around the same time. So we should be getting relatively close, as I believe that game's out on October 29th. So any time between now and the 29th, which is going to be fastly approaching, we should get this official information from Nintendo. And I want to hear from you guys on what's a fair price to you, what's the maximum you're willing to pay, and do you think that we'll see continued and better support than we saw with Nintendo on the NES and SNES service when it comes to them adding in new games for something like an N64 and the Sega Genesis library. So I do look forward to hearing from you guys on all the topics today, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around these topics. Thanks so much for watching the video today, everyone. I do truly appreciate you all sticking around until the end. I do, at this point in the video, want to invite you all one more time to join Sunbro Nation if you haven't done so already. Do so by subscribing below, hit the like button on your way out if you enjoyed it today, and make sure you turn on your bell notification icon so you're kept up to date with all the newest gaming news. That's going to do it for me, guys. I hope you all have a great day. Sunbro Nation, out.